Ever get the feeling that news headlines just scratch the surface of what's really going on between China and the West?
Hmm.
You're in the right place because today's deep dive takes us beyond the stereotypes. We're talking about those fundamental cultural differences that shape how we see the world.
Right.
Everything from our views on time and family to how we build relationships and approach innovation.
Yeah.
And to guide us, we're pulling insights straight from understanding cultural differences between China and the West.
It's like these cultures are operating from entirely different playbooks,
Totally.
and those differences impact everything.
So, to really get this, we need to rewind a bit. I was blown away reading about how China's historical journey has shaped its cultural DNA. It's like this epic tapestry woven over millennia, right?
Absolutely. The book dives into those fascinating dynastic cycles, the Zhou, the Qin, the Han, each leaving its mark on cultural values.
Mm.
What's fascinating is how those ancient echoes still resonate today.
It's incredible. Take Confucianism, for instance. It's not just some dusty philosophy. The book shows how it's still woven into the fabric of Chinese society today, influencing everything from family dynamics to business etiquette.
Exactly. And it wasn't just a philosophy. It was a system of governance, education, even daily life. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. The book doesn't shy away from the tumultuous periods in Chinese history, like the Chinese Civil War in the 20th century, which ultimately led to the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949.
That clash between the communists and the nationalists feels like such a pivotal moment.
Right.
You had this collision of ancient traditions with this massive political and social upheaval. Talk about a turning point.
And it highlights a key difference. The book explores the contrast between China's historical continuity and the West's more fragmented, even revolutionary past.
It's like comparing a marathon to a series of sprints, right?
Exactly. Think of the West as this mosaic of civilizations, ancient Greece with its democracy, the Roman Empire with its focus on law and order, the Renaissance with its rebirth of art and science. It's a very different historical rhythm than China's dynastic cycles.
And out of that ferment came the age of exploration, the Protestant Reformation. You can see how these events really shaped Western values like individualism, challenging authority, and that drive for exploration and discovery. It's almost like Europe hit the refresh button, and the effects are still felt today.
That spirit of questioning, of pushing boundaries, is a key theme the book highlights as a fundamental difference.
So on the one hand, we have China, shaped by Confucianism and those long dynastic cycles, placing a premium on stability, harmony, and taking the long view. And on the other hand, we have the West, forged in revolutions and the questioning spirit of the Enlightenment, emphasizing individual rights and embracing change.
It's fascinating because these historical forces directly impact how each culture approaches things like collectivism versus individualism, which the book calls one of the most striking contrasts.
Okay, so unpack that for me because I feel like this is a concept people throw around, but the book really brings it to life.
Think of it this way. In China, influenced by Confucianism, the needs of the group, the family, the community, often supersede individual desires. It's about social harmony, prioritizing the we over the me.
Which plays out in so many ways, right? Like how decisions are made. It's not just about one person calling the shots.
Exactly. The book talks about how decision-making in China is often hierarchical, emphasizing respect for authority and seeking consensus to maintain that all-important harmony. It's a very different approach than what we often see in Western cultures.
Which brings us to communication styles. I'm sure you've experienced those moments when it feels like you're speaking different languages, even when you're using the same words. The book's take on high context versus low context cultures was eye-opening.
It's a powerful framework. China, being a high-context culture, relies heavily on unspoken cues, body language, even social status to convey meaning. You really have to read between the lines.
Whereas in the West, with our low context style, we're all about directness and clarity. It's like that old saying, say what you mean what you say. We value getting straight to the point, even if it means being a bit more, shall we say, straightforward.
Which, as you can imagine, can lead to some interesting clashes when these two worlds collide.
It's like navigating a cultural minefield sometimes.
Yeah.
But with the right guide, we can learn to appreciate those differences and avoid those communication pitfalls. Now, one concept from the book that really struck me was this idea of guangxi. It's like the glue that holds Chinese society together, right?
It's about more than just networking. It's about cultivating deep, long-lasting relationships based on trust, reciprocity, and mutual obligation.
So it's not just about what you know,
Right.
but who you know.
Exactly.
And more importantly, how well you know them. But isn't there a potential downside to this emphasis on relationships? Could it lead to favoritism or hinder meritocracy?
That's a really insightful question. Um, the book acknowledges that guanxi, while beneficial in many ways, can create ethical dilemmas and even challenges traditional Western notions of fairness and transparency. It's a nuanced issue, and the book encourages readers to consider both the advantages and potential drawbacks.
Makes you think, doesn't it? It seems like this long-term orientation plays a huge role in how China approaches everything from business to innovation.
Absolutely. Imagine planning your business strategy not for the next quarter, but for the next century. That's the kind of thinking we're talking about with China's long-term perspective.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective. It's like planting a tree knowing your great-grandchildren will be the ones to enjoy its shade. That's the kind of generational thinking ingrained in Chinese culture.
It's a stark contrast to the West's often short-term focus, influenced by things like quarterly earnings reports and rapid technological advancements. The book argues that this difference in temporal orientation can lead to very different approaches to risk-taking and innovation.
So while we're busy trying to disrupt everything, they're playing the long game. But what about China's tech scene? It's exploding right now.
Hmm.
They're leading in areas like mobile payments, AI, even space exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that contradict this idea of a slow and steady approach?
That's where things get really interesting. China's economic transformation over the past few decades is unprecedented, and it's created this fascinating dynamic where ancient traditions clash with cutting-edge technology. It's like they're fast-forwarding through stages of development that took the West centuries to navigate.
It must be a mind-boggling experience, especially for younger generations trying to find their place between tradition and rapid modernization. The book touches on this, right?
Absolutely. It talks about how young people in China are navigating this complex cultural landscape, often blending traditional values with global influences to create their own hybrid identities. It's a fascinating generational story unfolding right before our eyes.
Okay, so we've covered history, values, communication styles, even how this long-term versus short-term orientation plays out. But I'm curious about something more personal. How do these cultural differences manifest in something as fundamental as family life?
That's where those different operating systems become even more apparent. The book dedicates a whole section to family, and it's eye-opening. For starters, the concept of family itself is very different in China, often encompassing extended family members and multiple generations living under one roof.
And filial piety, respect for elders, is paramount, right?
It's woven into the very fabric of Chinese society. This deep respect for elders, particularly parents, shapes everything from how children are raised to how decisions are made within the family unit. It's a stark contrast to the West's emphasis on the nuclear family and individual autonomy, even within those close-knit bonds.
The book doesn't shy away from those potential clash points, especially in cross-cultural families or when these different values come into contact. It's like those cultural differences get amplified within the intimacy of family life.
Absolutely. And the book delves into those complexities with sensitivity and nuance, encouraging readers to approach those differences with empathy and understanding.
Even celebrating holidays is a different experience.
Ah,
I was captivated by the book's description of Chinese New Year. The red decorations, the lion dances, the fireworks. It's steeped in symbolism and tradition.
it's not just a holiday. It's a cultural phenomenon deeply rooted in history, mythology, and those core values we've been discussing. Even the book's descriptions of Western holidays like Christmas highlight how they embody specific cultural values, like charity and family togetherness.
It's fascinating how these celebrations offer a window into the soul of a culture. Now, another area where those cultural values get passed down is through education. The book dives into the differences between Chinese and Western educational systems, right?
Education is key, and the book points out some fascinating contrasts. For instance, the Chinese system often emphasizes rote learning and memorization, with a laser focus on exams like the Gaokao, which is like the SATs on steroids.
I've heard about that. It's like this all-important, life-defining exam that can make or break your future. Talk about pressure.
It's seen as the gateway to success, to social mobility, to securing a good career. And this intense focus on exams reflects those deeper cultural values we've been discussing: discipline, conformity, and achieving collective goals.
Which is quite different from the West's approach, which often emphasizes critical thinking, creativity, and a more holistic approach to education. It's fascinating how those differences in educational philosophies reflect those deeply ingrained cultural values.
Precisely. And the book doesn't argue that one system is inherently better than the other. It's about understanding those differences and appreciating how they shape the next generation's worldview and approach to learning.
Okay, so we've got these two cultures with vastly different historical trajectories, values, communication styles, family structures, even approaches to education. The big question is, with China and the West becoming increasingly interconnected, how do these differences play out on a global scale?
That's where things get really interesting. And the book doesn't shy away from the complexities. It explores how these cultural differences influence everything from international business negotiations to diplomatic relations to everyday interactions between people from different backgrounds.
The book's section on communication styles in the workplace was particularly insightful.
Hmm.
It talked about how different approaches to expressing opinions or handling conflict can lead to major misunderstandings if you're not careful.
It's like speaking different languages,
Yeah.
even when you're using the same words. For example, a Western manager might value direct feedback, while a Chinese employee might perceive that as confrontational or disrespectful. Navigating those cultural nuances is crucial for effective communication and building strong relationships in any cross-cultural setting.
It's like learning a whole new cultural dance, isn't it?
Yeah,
You have to be aware of your own steps while also trying to anticipate your partner's moves.
right.
The book also touches on how these cultural differences manifest in leadership styles.
Absolutely. The book contrasts the West's emphasis on individual initiative and taking risks with China's focus on consensus building and maintaining harmony within the team. Again, neither approach is inherently better, but understanding these differences can be crucial for navigating cross-cultural work environments.
It's about adapting your leadership style to resonate with the cultural values of your team. Now, the book doesn't shy away from the challenges of cultural exchange, right? Even with the best intentions, things can get lost in translation.
Yeah.
It even delves into the sensitive topic of cultural appropriation.
It's an important conversation, especially in our globalized world, where cultures are constantly interacting and influencing each other. The book raises thought-provoking questions about respectfully engaging with other cultures, ensuring that cultural exchange doesn't turn into cultural exploitation.
It's about appreciating and learning from those differences, not simply consuming them for entertainment or profit. It's interesting. The book even delves into pop culture and how it reflects these deeper cultural values.
It's fascinating how pop culture can be a lens through which we understand a society's values and aspirations. For instance, the book talks about how celebrity culture operates very differently in China compared to the West. In China, celebrities are often seen as role models who embody societal ideals and are often closely aligned with government initiatives.
Which is a stark contrast to the West's more decentralized and often rebellious celebrity landscape, where fame can be fleeting and even controversial. It's also fascinating how social media, as a powerful force for cultural exchange, is also shaped by these underlying cultural differences.
Absolutely. Social media platforms, while global in reach, often reflect and amplify the cultural context in which they're used. For example, the book highlights how WeChat in China is deeply integrated into daily life, used for everything from messaging to payments to accessing government services. It's a very different experience from how we use social media in the West.
It's a reminder that even in our hyper-connected world, cultural differences still shape our online experiences. So with all these differences, misunderstandings are bound to happen, right? Even with the best intentions, those cultural blind spots can lead to miscommunication and conflict.
The book acknowledges those challenges, highlighting how differences in communication styles, for example, can lead to misunderstandings in the workplace, in social situations, and even in international diplomacy. It emphasizes the importance of cultural sensitivity, active listening, and being willing to adapt your communication style to bridge those cultural gaps.
It's about meeting in the middle, finding common ground, and recognizing that effective communication is a two-way street.
Precisely. It's about building bridges, not walls.
So where do we go from here? With China and the West more interconnected than ever, how do we navigate these cultural differences in a way that's both respectful and productive?
That's the million-dollar question, and the book offers some thought-provoking perspectives. It explores the potential for cultural blending, where the interaction between China and the West leads to a fusion of ideas, traditions, and even values, enriching both cultures in the process.
But it also cautions against the risks of cultural homogenization, where globalization leads to a flattening of those unique cultural differences.
That's a valid concern. The book emphasizes the importance of preserving cultural identities while also promoting cross-cultural understanding. It's about finding that delicate balance, appreciating those differences while also seeking common ground.
It's like a cultural tightrope walk, but the book gives us the tools and insights we need to navigate those complexities. This deep dive has been eye-opening. It's like I've been wearing cultural blinders and now I'm seeing the world with a fresh perspective.
It's a journey, and understanding cultural differences between China and the West is a fantastic guide. It doesn't provide all the answers, but it sparks curiosity, challenges assumptions, and encourages us to continue exploring those fascinating cultural landscapes.
It's given me a lot to ponder.
And that's the beauty of a good deep dive. It leaves you with more questions than answers, inspiring you to continue learning and expanding your understanding of our increasingly interconnected world.
Well said. To our listeners, I encourage you to keep exploring those cultural differences that shape our world. It's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. Understanding those differences is crucial, not only for navigating our globalized world, but also for fostering empathy, respect, and meaningful connections across cultures.
What a fascinating deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this journey of cultural discovery.
It was my pleasure. Until next time.